This episode of the ZuLoo Poodcast is sponsored by ZuLoo Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at ZuLoo.com.
Or if you want to make a lot of money and you're between the ages of like 13 and I think it was up to 30.
Maybe. Yeah.
You had to be young. You had to be in basically perfect health.
Yeah.
But you could make a ton of money, like over $100,000 a year.
Wow.
Selling your poop to this.
Yeah, I think that was the problem. They said my poop was too old. Probably. I'm sorry.
Welcome to the ZuLoo Poodcast, where we talk all things poop, toilets, and sanitation. Through insightful news, impact stories, and quirky humour, we aim to discuss and highlight the critical role toilets play in whisking poop out of our lives, the impact toilets have, or lack thereof, in the health and wellness of humanity, and what ZuLoo is doing to help solve the current global sanitation crisis.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the ZuLoo Poodcast. We're so excited to have you listening in. We've got a great interview to present to you today for your listening enjoyment. We've also got Jocelyn back in the studio. Welcome.
What's up?
Jocelyn.
Happy to be here.
Oh, excited for your pep. We're kind of filming late at night.
I know. I've got this. It specifically says caffeine water.
I know.
Oh.
I need some of that. Can you give me some of that?
I never drink caffeine, so this is what you get.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
I wish I had that system. My system does nothing with caffeine.
So
it's
drink a
the
lot of it.
Instead of the podcast doing this, it's going to do this.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's just the
getting
beginning,
more
guys.
exciting.
It's like the bottom of the roller coaster. We're just
about
going
to-
up and up.
About
I
to
love
take
it.
off.
Well,
And you're pretty famous now. It seems like I see you're all over the place. You're all over YouTube. ZuLoo spokesperson.
Me?
Yeah.
yeah, you.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I don't know if you've seen the latest ZuLoo website, but you got Jocelyn on there.
Well, I did see it.
Oh, you did see it.
Yeah, and it was really fun. That yellow sweater has now become one of my favorite sweaters.
I know. It's
So-
the ZuLoo sweater.
It is the ZuLoo sweater. I bought it just for ZuLoo.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
It's
it's
the
a good
same.
one.
Yeah. Great color combo.
So if you haven't visited the website, like this is the
Go
plug.
check out the
Go
sweater.
check out
That's right.
Jocelyn on our website.
And you can
It's
buy
great.
the sweater for $19.95.
Mhm. Put a
We
link
should
to
sell
it.
that sweater.
Love it.
Everybody wants one.
That's right.
It's
Well-
called ZuLoo Yellow.
I mean, like speaking of wear, I don't know that I should. Maybe this is not the appropriate time for this, but we'll need to talk about it at some point.
Oh, yes.
Some new ZuLoo.
We got some swag.
We have some. We just got this from Nigeria just a few days ago. This is World Toilet Day swag T-shirts. And I brought them with the idea that we would maybe put them on, but I don't know if they're going to fit you guys. They're all extra large,
Well, they'll totally fit. They'll just fit more like.
We'll just
more like a dress.
we'll
Yeah.
just drown in them. Here's the second one.
Yeah, they're like a dress. So
They're really thick. They seem
yeah, they're
warm.
super thick, like winter dress. Anyway, yeah, so those just came. And so maybe
Did those come because we are a sponsor of the
we are a sponsor of the World Toilet Summit. And so they sent us some T-shirts.
Right on?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a benefit,
Love it.
side benefit.
Yep. Mark your calendars, November 19th.
November 19th is World Toilet Day coming up.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, how should the regular American commemorate World Toilet Day? That seems like
Decorate
I
your
can't believe I haven't
toilet.
heard that before.
Yeah, there's lots of ways. Jack Sim in the past, before the pandemic, he would do like these different, like he would do 5K runs. They would
Mhm.
sponsor these, and then they would do squat for two. It was like a campaign for a while, and everybody's doing selfies of themselves squatting. I mean, not on a toilet necessarily, although that some people did, but yeah, just squatting, holding up the number two. It was sort of I don't know how viral it went, but at least as toilet people, we were like, "Wow, that's awesome!"
us toilet people.
Yeah.
We
So
loved
maybe
it.
we might do something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be in Nigeria, so hopefully I come back
November 19th.
November 19th.
Yep.
Okay, I think everyone who's listening should come up with a way to celebrate World Toilet Day and share it with us and see
it's a big deal.
Like which one we like the best, and then we can all do it.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it.
We should do that.
Send us an email, send us a DM,
Yeah,
an instant message. I don't know.
To
Tag us in a tweet wherever you're listening.
That's
we
right.
got to start some toilet day traditions.
That's right.
That's right.
That's nesting at podcast or Poodcast. Nesting at ZuLoo.com is her email, Jocelyn's email. Every time I saw that inbox, it's just full. I don't know. You should read those.
It's all your fan mail.
I'm not opening this. I'm not opening his email. Jocelyn's email.
I love it. Well, in other news, we're excited for today's interview. We sat down with the founders of Project Blueprint, which is a charity out of the UK that works a lot in the Uganda, building toilets and educating families and communities. So we're excited to hear from Lydia and Liam are their names. But before we do, Darren's got our weekly poo news. So I'm excited to see what.
It's interesting. So much cool toilet technology comes out of London, which is sort of the birthplace of toilets anyway.
Yep.
Right? If you study the history of toilets, John Crapper, is a real guy.
And that's his real name.
Real name, And so, and it seems like a lot of the poo news comes out of London for some reason. They seem to be fixated on it. But this news is from the Wall Street Journal, America. Kind of a sad news. Herbert Kohler, if you're familiar with Kohler toilets, huge toilet company. I think they're the biggest. I think Kohler.
The bold new look of Kohler.
Exactly.
Them.
Mr. Kohler died the other day, a few days ago, at the ripe old age of 83. After running, it's a family-owned company. His grandfather, his great-grandfather came over from, where did he come from?
Tell us it was London.
It was from Austria. Came to Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and started making plows and other farm equipment. John Michael Kohler in 1873, and he built a horse trough and a hog scalder, whatever that is. And then he diversified into making generators, engines, and then the family just sort of started getting into making toilets back then. And then his father took over, and then he took over. I think he was said he was in his mid 30s. He didn't really want to get in the business, but then really built, when he decided to, take on the family role and run the company, he just really built Kohler into what it is today, which is a, toilet powerhouse company. So
seems like they kind of struck gold there.
Yeah. Toilets, right? Who would know, right?
Who would know?
But anyway, passed away after he ran the company. He didn't, ran it to the last day. He wasn't
didn't retire
sick or anything, just kept on running and just, dead. But I don't know the circumstances, but that's in the news.
Well, we send our condolences to the Kohler family.
To the Kohler family. Keep at it. I don't know if there's maybe junior Kohlers that are going to take the helm or,
ready to take on.
They do make beautiful
business.
faucets. Very sleek.
Very beautiful toilets. Yeah. Yeah. Please. Thank you. Keep this
you
caffeine,
got a caffeine
going.
drink
I got one.
too.
Trevor's kind of our drink man tonight.
Yeah. Hey, Trevor.
Grabbing all our drinks for us. Thanks, Trevor.
Oops. Whoa, that made it all the way over here.
Whoa, it's just getting a little crazy tonight. Whoa.
It's a Wednesday night, everybody. Watch out.
A little crazy. Let's see. So the other article I've got here is I've got a ton of articles, but this one's kind of interesting. It's some new science. We like to cover the science as well. Very scientific. But they've determined that there's, some young, they did some experiments with some lab mice, and they found that injecting older mice that had signs of Alzheimer's, it's not just humans, but it affects animals as well. Older,
they really
mice.
Can't ever find their way out of the maze.
Yeah, they can't find
the cheese.
Can't find the cheese anymore. Where did I put that cheese? Anyway, and I've read about this. Like there's a mind gut connection. Between what's going on in your brain and your gut. It's all connected, right? So anyway, they would take feces, mice poop.
Yeah,
and they would inject it into the rectum of these older mice. Trevor's like, no. And it had the effect of helping them find their cheese again.
Wow.
Now, normally I'd be blown away by this, but I think I sent you this article.
Did you send me this article?
But it wasn't mice, it was humans. They're doing fecal transplants in humans.
Okay.
And not for Alzheimer's, for some other gut-related issue. But they're having great... What it was is they were asking for people to donate their fecal matter, but the qualification process was very rigorous. You had to meet a lot of very specific criteria to be a candidate for this process, but they would pay you a lot. Like by the pound.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
I think I sent them a big box of mine poop, but they sent
rejected
it
back. Returned to
I'm
sender.
like, no money. And I was like, oh wait, is this all the money? No, it's my poop. Send it back. No, I remember you sending me that article. But yeah, that is a thing where those are people that have the bacteria in their guts are like somehow destroyed. A lot of time chemotherapy patients, they lose a lot of their
microbiome,
their microbiome, and they basically a donor donates their microbiome, and there's only one way to do it. You don't want to put it in this way; you put it in that way.
That I hadn't considered. That it's going.
Yeah, you got to put it in
up the exit.
Yeah, up the exit. Right. There's only so many holes you can use. So.
I assumed a needle straight into your gut, but that
so they've got to put it in that way. That's the way they do it. But anyway, so that's true. That's relevant. And then this mice story. I mean, who knew that poop might be the cure to Alzheimer's? I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully, the study will lead to it fixes the forgetful mouse. Maybe you can fix Grandpa too.
I did read I follow WebMD on my Instagram, and they're like they only do one post a day, and their post today was about this. It was about freezing your own fecal matter so that 30 years down the road, should something happen to you, like you get cancer and your microbiome is destroyed in your gut, or to help with memory loss, then they would still use your own sample.
Wow.
From a time when you had a healthy gut.
Man, just label the heck out of that when you put it in the freezer. Because
you got the wedding cake, and then you got X mark. Do not open.
It's gonna look like
anyway. I know. You could get into so much trouble. With that,
it's like, was our wedding cake chocolate?
Yeah.
Or I can't remember what flavor it was.
Darren's like, I live in Puerto Rico, and a hurricane hit a couple weeks ago. My power was out for how many days? Oh, that's not what you want in your freezer when that happens.
Yeah.
So now
how did you know I put some in there?
This is all I can guess.
Okay.
That is pretty amazing.
It
is incredible.
I think there is some breast milk in there.
Okay, I was actually going to ask,
and it's not mine. And so I'm wondering if you want it anymore, or
how long does that stay good?
They tell you 6 months, but you can go up to a year.
I think it's been about a year in there.
Yeah.
But
it surprises me.
But now there's no power. But there's been no power there for 3 or 4 days. So
that's bad now.
Yeah,
that's a bummer.
Yeah.
I used to have a freezer full of someone else's breast milk, and it was like I don't think I've ever been more grateful for anything else in my life.
Yeah.
So if you can freeze it, stock it up.
Yep, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So anyway,
so visit, maybe visit WebMD or some other sources before you freeze any of your own feces.
Or if you want to make a lot of money and you're between the ages of 13 and I think it was up to 30.
Maybe Yeah.
You had to be young. You had to be in basically perfect health.
Yeah.
But you could make a ton of money, like over $100,000 a year.
Wow.
Selling your poop to this.
Yeah, I think that was the problem. They said my poop was too old. Probably. I'm sorry. Maybe it's the wrong shape, size. I don't know.
Too much protein.
No money,
shake.
but it is maybe a money thing.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's the news.
Well, excited then to hop into Lydia and Liam's interview and enjoy listening. Well, Lydia, Liam from Project Blueprint, welcome to the ZuLoo Poodcast. We are so excited to be able to chat with you. I know we've kind of been going back and forth for a long time, and we're just so excited to have you on the show. So welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much for having us.
Yeah, it's our pleasure entirely. We wanted to start out with you telling us and our listeners a little bit more about Project Blueprint. Lydia, I'm wondering if you can give us some background. Who are you? How'd you get started?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Lydia and I co-founded Project Blueprint with Liam here. So we were officially kind of registered in 2019, but the work started a little bit before then, probably around 2017. It started with community compost toilets that Liam and some engineers helped build in Uganda. And our philosophy is all about teaching others the skills and the kind of technologies so that they can replicate their own community compost toilets. So that's kind of how we got started, and it's grown a little bit since then. I'll hand over to Liam to introduce himself as well.
Sure, thanks, Lydia. Yeah, so my name's Liam, and as Lydia said, I studied engineering with another one of my friends at university, and that was kind of the grassroots of the project. So we kind of came together as a three and some other student friends that we had at the time to try and make this idea we had to design and to educate a community to build a compost toilet a reality. So we did various kind of fundraising nights whilst we were doing the engineering, and then myself, Lydia, and our other director, Dylan, we flew out to Uganda to meet the community, to get to know them, and just really to understand their culture and to make sure that the project that we had envisaged was sort of fit for purpose within their cultural needs. And then from there, we've kind of blossomed and done a few other projects, which I'm sure we could talk about in a few moments.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious to know, Liam, like, why toilets? Why composting toilets? What was the background there? What was the thought process?
Yeah, so my side of it was I was part of another society at Sheffield, which is where me and Lydia studied in the UK. And this society was called Engineers Without Borders. So a lot of people have heard of the doctors equivalent, Doctors Without Borders, but the engineers are not as famous. So what we've done is, or what we were doing was just various projects in and around the city of Sheffield. And the project that I was leading just happened to be a compost toilet project. So it's kind of like a twist of fate. I just kind of happened to learn the science and the engineering of designing a compost toilet. And it was later on a meeting with myself, Lydia, and some other people that we tried to create an ambition to bring it beyond Sheffield to like an international context. I don't know, Lydia, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, so my side of the story was I studied international development in my master's at university, and I was working indirectly with a charity called Kids Club Kampala based in Uganda. And it was kind of through meeting Liam and also working with Kids Club that we kind of put the sanitation crisis in Uganda together with these kind of compost toilet opportunity that we had through Sheffield and through studying together. So that's kind of how this came about. It was both a great opportunity, but also we saw that we had something that could really help solve a need in Uganda, in communities in Uganda. So that's we're really trying to help kind of address the problem.
I'm so glad that you hopped in, Lydia, because that was sort of the second burning question in my mind was like, well, how does Uganda fit into all of this? Because, you know, it seems like there's always got to be some sort of connection, right? Some foot in the door with a country or a grassroots NGO. That's definitely how ZuLoo works. We prefer to have contacts on the ground so that we are familiar with our communities, their cultures, their needs. And so very neat that both of your studies came and merged into this one project, Project Blueprint. I'm wondering, Liam, can you tell us a little bit more about the work that's going on in Uganda? Is it educational? Is it, teaching how to build a compost toilet? What's that project like?
Yeah, sure. So I think, first and foremost, it is an education initiative. So it's all about, we had this idea and this sort of design that we'd learned in our studies and also through research that Lydia and her team had conducted. And what we wanted to make it was kind of our truly sort of sustainable vision is to educate the community just with the basic knowledge and skills of how to design, build and maintain the toilet. And then from there, they can go on and replicate it or educate other neighbouring communities, and that was kind of the big vision we had to kind of see that growth. But it was also about making sure that, as I mentioned before, it was all fit for purpose within their culture. So all of the materials and kind of the way it was manufactured was exactly the same way that they would build any other kind of sort of concrete-based unit. So that's really kind of first and foremost what the project was all around. And what we're kind of looking to do now is, as I mentioned, kind of expand our initiatives and potentially even do other wash-related projects, potentially outside of toilets as well, depending on potential partners we might create down the line.
Yeah, I can't imagine what else you would do besides toilets, because that's all we can think about.
Well, we have actually done during COVID, the first kind of wave of COVID, we obviously saw another kind of big challenge problem that we wanted to help address because we're so focused on water and sanitation. So we did help, again, with the support of Kids Club Kampala on the ground, install 8 kind of hand washing stations. And these were within Kampala's urban slum communities where the need was greater. So that was just something that we started doing outside toilets. So it's not just confined to those, but obviously that is, one of our big kind of flagship projects. And I just wanted to add with the pilot project back in 2018 and what Liam's been describing, another key component has been about women's empowerment and how we've encouraged them to, because women are like the leaders of WASH, they kind of control WASH in a lot of societies. So we helped empower them to kind of take ownership of the project through a local women's initiative. So they were then responsible for the maintenance, and they still are today. They'll let us know if there's a repair that's needed or something like that. And also just doing some like hygiene awareness sessions with them as a kind of like train the trainers type session where they can go out and just make sure that other people in the community know about hand washing and how to use the compost toilet safely. So it's been another element of the project. And then just another one I wanted to mention, which has been a really exciting part of the project is that, and Liam can tell you more about the engineering side, but as this kind of community empowerment project, a big part of it is that the compost will be available to use after a certain amount of time. So that can be used in local agriculture projects. And we have some really nice videos on our website about how women in the community have used that on their crops. And the same with the urine as a kind of fertilizer, pesticide. They can use that on their crops and they've seen like great outcomes. So it's been really exciting.
So I am curious. I do want to know more about the engineering, but before I hop over to Liam to explain a little bit more about the engineering of the composting toilet, I'm curious how Project Blueprint finds recipients or communities. Is it through the Kids Club? Is it through another women's-based organization? What's that primary mode of somebody, listening to this? We have a couple of friends in Uganda that are looking for help. And so I'm curious, how might they get in touch? How might they qualify? What's that process like?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think because we're still quite early on, we're still figuring out exactly how this kind of next process will work or how we identify new locations. But the process so far is really being like needs-based. There'll be a kind of thorough consultation with the community about the land, because obviously land use in Uganda, we need to make sure that the land is available and can be publicly available, and that it will be like as impactful as possible to the users around. I think in terms of other communities or places in Uganda that might need a compost toilet, they just get in touch with our email address that we can share at the end. And we'd be happy to have discussions. I don't know if Liam wants to add any more on that one.
I think that kind of hits the pin on the head. Essentially, as Lydia said, because we're still quite early days in terms of our operations, and we are looking to kind of expand as the next step. We're kind of open to sort of reaching out or getting reached out to from other organizations with, kind of potential projects that there might be more their line of work, but we could potentially provide like the manpower now that we've got a group of trained communities on the ground in Uganda. But yeah, essentially kind of just quite open to networking with whoever in watch.
That's great. We're excited to work with you. We have actually two of our good friends are over in Uganda currently, Melissa and Arturo. And I'm sure we're going to be meeting up with them when they get back. But yeah, certainly there's a lot of synergies, I think, to be had there. I'm curious to know about the geek out about the tech of the toilet. What makes it work, and maybe some challenges you see implementing it in the Uganda.
Yeah, sure. I guess this is the bit of the call where I send everyone else to sleep, is it, Darren?
Well, you can use hand gestures and make some jokes if you want to keep us engaged. But
I'll see what I can do.
I'm here for it.
Okay. I guess I could start with challenges then, because obviously designing a toilet that we did in Sheffield, and it was the same kind of concept. So basically, in summary, it's what's called an eco-san dehydrating toilet. So it separates the urine and the feces at the source. And that's, as Lydia has said before, gives us two sources of compost and fertilizer that can be used for different uses, for different benefits. So it was the same design that we wanted to design in Uganda. But obviously the main kind of constraint we had was to make sure all of the materials that we could use and the way that we would get the materials delivered to the site could all be done within that boundary of the village of Namavundu where we were building the toilet. So one concern that we came across was when we were trying to work out like the quantities that we'd need for the toilet is a typical sort of engineering approach is you kind of take a backwards approach where you work out what's the end result and then therefore what's the number of bricks you need, how much volume of cement and sand. And we calculated all of this, but when it came to contacting the people at Kids Club in Uganda, it turned out that the quantities that they use was per truck, like an elf truck, which is like a Japanese ZuLoo brand truck. So we couldn't just tell them, we'd like 16 meters cubed of cement, because they would be like, how much is that? Is that one truck? Is that two trucks? So we have to like research and find out how much volume per truck and then, convert it into their language. So that was like a good, I guess, eye-opening thing for me as well, to get exposure to kind of just the way that they work. And then I think, but more or less altogether, it went quite swimmingly, the project, I say. And I think that was probably just because of how on board and engaged the community were. And we were quite fortunate that a lot of the members had a lot of background construction experience. So it was kind of their sort of bread and butter, how to sort of build such a toilet. I don't know if
were you there on the ground to help facilitate that, or did you just give them instructions, or how did that go?
Yeah, so it was more of like an informal relationship between me, Dylan, the other engineer, and the main leaders of the community. And because they were so familiar with the construction techniques, we just kind of needed to show them sort of the steps, what needs to go in what order, but they knew exactly how to do that. So we could very much just kind of step back and sort of let them, construct it, which is exactly what we wanted to do from the start.
Nice.
Just wanted to add, so that was the process for the pilot, and then the second time round, we did this remotely. So the community leaders that we worked with initially were able to kind of replicate without our support. So we just were obviously always available for a call or a message just to kind of check in and see how it was going. But that was done kind of completely without our on the ground support, and that's how I think it should be, which is great.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And did you just get lucky that a lot of the community members had already had experience in construction? Or was it leaders through Kids Club that were actively going out and recruiting community members with that expertise?
I think that by and large, I guess because of a lot of work that people do in the kind of sort of rural area we were would be involved in construction. So it was kind of just a given in some sense that there would be some members who had that experience and they kind of came to the forefront to take on that leadership role. But there were also people in the community, as Lydia mentioned, within the Women's Initiative and other some males as well, who were connected to Kids Club, and they were also quite big spearheaders in the project. So it was a bit of both, really. I don't know, Lydia, if you had anything to...
Yeah, I was just going to share a nice story. Someone we worked with on the pilot project, who had done a kind of a little bit of tiling and roofing work previously. When he worked on the compost toilets with us, he went on to kind of start a roofing business, and now that's his profession. So it's just like little ways that we've helped create change that aren't always the most obvious, but it's not always just about, reducing open defecation, having a safe space to defecate, and like reducing preventable diseases and infectious diseases and stuff like that. But it's also about other kind of skills and empowerment and stuff like that. So right. I think it's just, great.
Well, that's a great story. What other, I was going to ask you if you had any other stories of after the toilet was started to be used, did you get some feedback maybe you can share how it maybe changed the community a little bit?
Yeah, I think, and we've had an evaluation done on the pilot project from University of Sheffield as well, which is great. But yeah, we like to find out through all the community users how it's going, how it's helped change the community, how it's helped improve sanitation. So we've got lots of like nice stories on our social media and things like that. Yeah, like the consensus is in both places now that there's reduced open defecation. Hygiene and health has improved, especially in the younger children. And I think it's also really brought a nice like community feeling of togetherness. Like everyone built this project together. The second one's on a church grounds where everyone comes to gather on the weekends. And the boda drivers use it when they're like hanging around waiting for customers. And like it's just a big community project. And it's also had positive outcomes for that as well, I think. Just people kind of know of the toilet and know that they like why they're involved in it or can use it freely, and it's just it's just a nice kind of feeling.
Well, that's great. Is there any particular story that you've shared on social media that stands out to you the most?
I think other than the roofer, which was nice, I think the first time we found a really nice story was a lady who was in the pilot that had used the urine on her crops, and they were still waiting for the compost. And this was the first time we'd really heard about it being used. And she was just telling us how happy she was that the project had come and been done in her community, and that her crops were kind of flourishing, and she'd made enough money to open like a small kind of plot of land, and some other community members were getting involved. And it was just such a simple extra product from like a waste that usually goes down the drain everywhere else in the world with like flushing pipes. And it was just an extra thing aside from the compost toilet that was helping reduce open defecation and improving sanitation, but it just had all these little extra things that helped improve people's lives that most people don't even think about as possible. So for me, that was probably one of the nicest stories.
That's great. What's the capacity of one of the unit that you build? Are they uniform, or do they vary based on the size of land that you've got?
Yeah, good question. So it's quite different for the two toilets we built so far. So the first one was a lot more smaller scale, but again, both of them were based on the expected number of users a day. So kind of making it fit for purpose to the context where we were building. So the first one was actually built, it was in the front garden of one of the women from the Women's Initiative that Lydia mentioned before. So it's just a twin cubicle where you alternate every 12 months, and that's to allow the compost to undergo the composting process. So the size of it itself is kind of a typical kind of restroom sort of cubicle size, just two adjacent to each other. But then for the second toilet, because it was, as Lydia mentioned, next to a church, so it's a much sort of larger expected number of users, or a lot less sort of certain as well. So we wanted to account for that uncertainty. So we made it larger in size, and also we decided to make it gender-based as well, because that was another feedback we got from the first project, which was because it was a genderless toilet, so both males and females would use the same cubicles, but they informed us that they would much prefer it if it could be gender-based. So we've actually got 4 cubicles. Again, only 2 are in use each time of the year, and it alternates. So it's much bigger, this one, again, just for that same reason. Don't know, Lydia, if anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think just to add, like, we definitely want to focus on like the needs of the community where it would go. So it would never be uniform, I guess. And we just want to always keep improving, keep adapting it to the needs. So in the second iteration, we also installed 2 like sloping rails with handrails to make sure it was more kind of easily accessible to elderly people or people with disabilities, or even making it slightly safer for children if they're running up and down the ramp. But yeah, it's just safer for everyone. So we always want to keep improving the designs and making them fit for purpose.
So I think that this is one of the reasons that our 2 organizations work so well together, is because we just have so many of the same ethos and philosophies when it comes to a community approach, right? That community buy-in, that level of accountability really excites a community. And I mean, it's funny because in our Western culture, right, we would think like, who's really excited about building and maintaining toilets together? Like the community, my community would not care for that. But to see a community come together, put in the hard work, right, that sweat equity, and then teach others how to take care of it, how to make the most out of this project. I mean, it's a beautiful thing that, Lydia, is just as you were saying, expands far beyond just the use of a toilet. It's individual businesses and incomes, which is changing the local economy. And that just has this domino effect, right? It just continues to grow. And I think the other portion that I was thinking about just as I was learning from both of you just now is that, yeah, our projects are never going to look the same. And some might call that a failing because it's a little bit hard to replicate or mass produce. But I think what's shocking for a lot of our audience members that are just getting to know and become familiar with the global sanitation crisis is that toilets look so different all over the world because they need to, because of the regions, because of the cultural practices, because of how cultural practices are continually evolving and changing. So I guess I am concluding here by just saying, like, that's a huge deal. And thank you for taking those things into consideration in both of your projects. And I know you've got other, interests that Project Blueprint is working on that play into those same principles that you run by. We just think that's really, really cool here at ZuLoo.
Cool, thanks, Kelsey. Yeah. I kind of like to sort of regurgitate the same message across, because we've definitely seen from what we've learned about ZuLoo as well, that you have that same kind of community approach and philosophy. And it's very important.
Yeah, we're really excited for some upcoming projects. And we are particularly excited for the World Toilet Summit because the theme is innovations and sanitation for economic growth and development. And as I was, re-looking over your website and reading some of your philosophies and the goals that you have just in regards to, gender equality and helping minorities, especially, Lydia, you just mentioned making ramps more accessible. Like, they're just things that people don't think about unless it's their own direct need. So this is going to be kind of a mouthful of a question. And Lydia, maybe I'd like to see your take on it. And then Liam, I'd love to hear your take on it, because I think both of your perspectives are valuable and they're going to add something to this question. We are focusing ZuLoo here on that World Toilet Summit theme, which, by the way, we hope to see you at. We would love to have you there. It's in Nigeria this year. And this is just going to be like our last wrap-up question. So like I said, the theme of the World Toilet Summit is sanitation innovation technologies for economic growth and development. Project Blueprint seems to be super aligned with that. So I'm curious, how specifically is Project Blueprint contributing to economic growth and development using your composting toilets in Uganda and even through other projects that you have going on?
That's a big question. And we would love to be there. We don't have plans to go, but we'll definitely be listening in and doing lots of learning and sharing. So for sure. I think economic growth and development links to what we're doing, because I think if people are healthier and happier in their communities, there's less risk of infectious diseases. And the same for kind of early child development in particular, because children under 5 are kind of generally most at risk from open defecation in the area, and kind of those diseases. If people are healthier and happier, then they work better. And I think that generally contributes to development of the area. And then, the compost it's a time-consuming process to kind of have that output at the end, compost that can be used. But it's great that we've already had some loads from the pilot, and then this larger community compost toilet in the church, like what they choose to do with that as a community, whether they sell it, whether they use it in agriculture, that still kind of remains to be seen. So we're hoping that will contribute to the development in a small way of Namabundu community.
Love that. Thanks, Lydia. It will seem small, but it will not be small. The impacts will be massive on personal levels for that community, for their individuals, for their families. And like I said, just moving on to local and regional regions. So Liam, I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, sure. I guess a lot of the other kind of side economic benefits me and Lydia have mentioned before, into the man with the roofing company and being able to sell the compost. I think that another kind of fundamental aspect to this project and all of our projects is that education and sort of training. And obviously, even though there were some members who were already familiar with sort of construction techniques, there were definitely some who were learning from those people who knew how to do it. So they kind of gained those skills, and potentially that could lead them onto their own sort of career paths in construction, for example. So I think that's another big aspect, that kind of training and education that can then blossom into lots of different directions. Another project we are doing, which is away from toilets, is our other main project, Project Kestrel, which is to do with the design of an autonomous drone to deliver medical supplies, again, in rural East Africa. But it's, again, using the exact same philosophy of using local materials. And again, we'd want to train people how to operate the drone, how to maintain it. So in that same light, it's all about making sure people can be taught with those skills, and then potentially that could, be another sort of economic platform for them.
Absolutely. You've just reminded me of Jack Sims' World Toilet College, right? Where they train sanitation workers how to handle sewage waste. And it's a huge, huge deal for those locals, because they learn a skill that they take into a career path, and it just accelerates the growth of their community. Darren, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, we're excited to continue the conversation and look for opportunities. I mean, we've been having conversations with some groups in Uganda, and also, like I said, some of our good partners that we've worked with on the nonprofit side. They're actually there now, and we certainly, and not just Uganda. Obviously, we're going to Nigeria and other places, but I think there's a great opportunity to work together to expand the Blueprints project. I don't know anything about drones, because drones, it's not a toilet, so I can't speak on it.
Unless you're using it to spot where the next toilet is, right?
If you're talking about toilet paper delivery in an emergency situation, then a drone, we're all over that.
That can be our next project, Darren.
There you go. No, that's great. Appreciate you guys coming on the show, and we look forward to continuing the conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. It's been great to chat to you both.
Likewise. Well, we will see you tuning in then at the World Toilet Summit, Nigeria, and we'll be in chats before then. So have a great rest of your evening. We know we've taken up quite a bit of time, but thank you so much for coming on. We'll be excited to share this with our audience and just let them know all the amazing work that Project Blueprint continues to do for the community. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kelsey. I really appreciate the opportunity.
For sure. Okay, we'll talk later, guys. See ya.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, Lydia and Liam. That was awesome. Their conversation, I feel like we just touched on so many topics. We touched on engineering, the inception of Project Blueprint, how social forces really can come together with engineering minds to create change. Their drone project, like they're doing so many cool things.
Yeah, a lot of cool things. I mean, amazing those British minds, just keep on
they just keep turning.
New things.
Yeah.
You think, oh, they're just all about tea and crumpets, but no. That's no, especially we were talking about in the toilet space. They're just a lot of innovation and all of that. So we're excited to get to know them better and maybe partner on some projects with them.
Yeah.
Uganda and other places. But anyway, yeah. So what did you think, Jocelyn, of the interview?
Well, I love the name Liam. It's a great name. I like that it's becoming more popular. If I had a boy, might be a Liam.
Might be a Liam.
Yeah.
Well, I think he's single. Was he single?
I don't recall asking Liam about his dating life.
You have a boyfriend, but in case, you want to go to London and meet Liam.
I did have a period where I would only date British guys.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. It was an Outlander fantasy that I just wanted to come true.
Okay.
Yeah. Turns out British guys aren't that much different.
Are they Irish or British?
Well,
Irish or English?
So, I mean, if we're going purely Outlander, it would be Scottish.
Scottish. Okay.
But, okay. British, it's all encompassing.
In the British Isles, there are many.
Yeah.
Right?
They all have an accent.
I remember going to Ireland and, they were very adamant. This is Ireland, not Northern, but they were very adamant, like, oh, we're not British. Anyway. They, somebody said like, oh, the British, British don't hate the Irish. They hate the French, something like that. But, anyway, that's,
but we loved our interview with them. It was great to chat with them. And, it's kind of funny. We talk a lot about doing projects in Africa and it's sort of tricky to know where to start. So we're grateful to have connected with them because Darren will be going to Nigeria for the World Toilet Summit, just like we talked about prior to listening to their interview. But also, we had on previously our friend Arturo Fuentes, who just got back from Uganda. And so he's sort of another contact. I don't know, it just kind of feels like the stars are aligning to possibly get ZuLoo out there. So it'll be exciting to see what the future holds.
We're out there. Yeah, we are out there.
We're out there. We do have other contacts we've been meeting through social media. So
wherever YouTube reaches, that's where we are.
That's right. That's right. Well, we hope you enjoyed it as well. Thanks for tuning in and we'll catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to the ZuLoo Poodcast. Follow us on social media at our links in the show notes below. To learn more, visit our website, ZuLoo.org. If you liked the podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. For even more ZuLoo fun, send us an email with your toilet stories to podcast@ZuLoo.com for a chance to be featured on the podcast. This episode of the ZuLoo Poodcast is sponsored by ZuLoo Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at ZuLoo.com.